What's up, people? Welcome to the Seven Figures or Bust podcast, episode 27. My name is Christian Brindle. I'm your host, and I'm excited to bring you another show helping you grow your business to seven figures and beyond, okay? So seven figures or bust, my friends. Again, this is episode 27, and we're going to be talking about millionaire money habits, okay? One thing that I've noticed just throughout my trajectory of life, right? Growing my business, but also through my travels, through knowing certain individuals and knowing people in general, is that there is a absolute finite amount of people out there that have really good information and knowledge on financial education. And we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about that from a perspective of two different variables of somebody that's a business owner and what they should do with their money, what they should be thinking about, what their mentality should be. We're going to be talking about people that might not be business owners, because let's face it, right? Not everybody's cut out to be a business owner. Not everybody's cut out to be an entrepreneur. Not everybody wants to be an entrepreneur. Not everybody wants to make all the sacrifices that it takes to be an entrepreneur. Look at me, for example, right? I am recording this for you right now, this episode, on a Sunday. Transparency there, right? On a Sunday where I could be hanging out with my family. I could be hanging out with my child. I could be hanging out with my wife. I could be out doing something fun. But I'm here recording an episode jam-packed with value that I put a lot of time preparing into for you. It's not a sexy or popular thing to say these days, because entrepreneur has become a bit of a buzzword on the internet. It's become a word that people like to throw around, like someone's driving for Uber, for example. They're doing an Uber drive and they drop somebody off and they post a selfie on the internet, be like, yeah, side hustle, Uber, hashtag entrepreneur, hashtag hustle, hashtag grind. That is not what it means to be an entrepreneur. And it's not a sexy thing to publicly put this out there, right? It's more sexy to tell people, oh yeah, anybody can be an entrepreneur. Anybody can be an entrepreneur. Mindset, bro, mindset. If you want to be an entrepreneur, yes, mindset is pivotal. Learning is pivotal. Learning business is pivotal. Learning what we're going to talk about today on this podcast about money is pivotal. Learning marketing is pivotal. Learning management styles is pivotal. Learning business structure is pivotal. It's all pivotal. And guess what about most of the things that are pivotal? They're not exactly fun or sexy to learn. They're not fun like popping on a motivational video, a motivational speech of some kind, and getting all motivated. A lot of it is strategy, X's and O's, and boring shit. Facts, right? And so not everybody's got to be an entrepreneur. And you can save people a lot of headache and a lot of heartache and years of trial and error and really just misery by not telling them they should try to miscast themselves. Of course, this is probably a topic for another day, but I wanted to kind of break that down because a lot of people are probably better off working for a company, being part of a company, being an important piece in a company, and growing with that company and becoming, very successful within that company. That is a pathway that there is nothing wrong with taking. If you look at a lot of very successful people in the world today, they were not entrepreneurs. They were not business creators. They were not business starters. Let's face it, right? There's not a lot of people out there that are meant to be a one. And it's not a diss on anybody that's not meant to be a one, right? A one takes an absolutely crazy person when you really look down to it. All the sacrifices, how their mind works, they're absolutely out of their mind and they're a lunatic at the end of the day. An absolute maniac. Most people are not ones. There's a lot of negative characteristics you need to possess to be a one, to get a business off the ground. A lot of self-destructive characteristics that you probably have to possess to be a one. But if you look at people like Steve Ballmer, right? Steve Ballmer is the richest owner in the NBA today. He's richer than all the other owners that are entrepreneurs, but he was never an entrepreneur. He didn't found Microsoft. He didn't create Microsoft. He was an employee in Microsoft, worked his way up into a position of authority, and became unbelievably wealthy through Microsoft. But he wasn't an entrepreneur. So think about that for a second, right? All of society and pop culture when they've kind of, wrapped their tentacles, if you will, around entrepreneurship, has tried to push to you the only way to be successful is to be an entrepreneur, and it's not true. Now, you can be wildly successful as an entrepreneur, but the facts of the matter is 99% of people don't become that, no matter how hard they try. Only about 1% of people that are entrepreneurs have huge, vast, massive success. Again, I'm not discouraging you from being an entrepreneur, but I'm just more kind of laying out the facts that probably not everybody is best cast to be an entrepreneur. So we're going to talk about that side of things as well. We're going to talk about that side of things as well, as in terms of like, what should your focus on money and finances be if you're not an entrepreneur and you're an employee somewhere? Because I want to bring value to everybody that might watch this. Okay, so let's just kind of jump in. So first thing I wanted to kind of hit on is a tried and true financial education fact. And I guess idea is probably a better word than fact, of assets versus liabilities. For those of you that don't know, one of my favorite books that I've ever read is Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, right? The world famous Rich Dad, Poor Dad, one of the most highly successful personal finance books ever created. Most likely everybody's heard of this book. Most likely a lot of you have read this book, but if you haven't heard of it, if you haven't read it, that's the first thing you should do when this podcast is over, because there's a lot of very practical lessons that have been used by entrepreneurs, investors, and successful individuals for decades now, because this book came out a long time ago at this point. But it still holds up in terms of a lot of its principles. And one of its main principles, because it breaks things down in such a simplistic way, is the idea of assets versus liabilities. So in school, in college, they have extremely limited financial education that they teach you. But what they do teach you is wrong, almost entirely. What I've always told people is, if you really want to learn how to be successful in business, in finances, the first thing you need to do is take anything you learned in any college, any high school you went to, and throw it in the trash. Throw it in the trash, take the bag out, put the bag in the dumpster, never think about it again. Because our education system is a joke. I think most of us can understand this and agree with this. Our education system is an absolute joke, and our education system does not teach entrepreneurship. It does not teach finances. It doesn't teach about inflation. It doesn't teach about investing. It doesn't teach about interest. It doesn't teach about capital gains. It doesn't teach about, high interest accounts. It doesn't teach about index funds. It doesn't teach about mutual funds. It doesn't teach about the stock market. It doesn't teach about any of these things. It doesn't teach about compounding interest. And why is that? Is it because everybody that puts things into motion is stupid? No, I don't believe that. I kind of have more of a conspiratorial view on it than that. If I'm going to put my tinfoil hat on, I personally believe that the powers that be don't want that information put down into the people. I think that there's been a lot of examples throughout history that a less educated population is easier to control. And I think the powers that be, I think the people that are in control view it that way. I feel like they believe that the least educated the population is on the most powerful and impactful subjects, finances being one of them, the easier they are to control. So they purposely do not put this information into the curriculum, and the information they do put in is wrong. So understand this. Okay, so Rich Dad, Poor Dad kind of pioneered this concept of assets versus liabilities. Now, with a lot of schools of thought in mainstream traditional education, like college, high school, etc., the idea of assets and liabilities are just so overly complicated and wonky, right? Things that lose you money is looked at as an asset. But in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, they make it incredibly simple. And this is actually the way that I feel like everybody that wants to get their money right should look at it. It's how I look at it. Assets versus liabilities. An asset is defined in the book as something that pays you, something that makes you money. Period. Point blank. So what's an example of this, right? My car. Is my car technically an asset? Well, in the mainstream schools of thought it is, because it's worth something. I could sell it. I could get something for it, right? But in the Rich Dad, Poor Dad sense, it's not, because it doesn't make me money. Now, if I'm driving for Uber, it's an asset. If I'm renting my car out, it's an asset. But if I'm just driving my car around, it's a liability, because it loses me money. That's the definition of a liability. It loses you money. My business is an asset. My business generates money. My books that I have on Amazon are an asset. My stocks are an asset. If I had a rental property, that would be an asset as long as somebody's in it. If somebody's renting it, if I have a tenant, if I don't have a tenant and it goes for months and I have no cash flow, it's then a liability. Simply put, assets, liabilities. Assets pay you, liabilities take money from you or don't pay you at all. Period, point blank. And so when you look at it kind of from that perspective, it really kind of simplifies the way that you do things. And in Rich Dad, Poor Dad, one of the really famous lines that they say in there and kind of is spelled out is the difference between rich people and poor people is rich people spend their money on assets and poor people spend their money on liabilities. Simple, right? Simplistic. Beautifully simple. And when you look at it from that perspective, and then once you really understand that and embrace that, your whole life can change when it comes to money and finance. And we got a lot to cover, so let's kind of keep trudging along here, okay? So what are assets that you can spend money on as a business owner, as an employee, right? What should you be actually doing with your money? This is something that people ask me all the time. What should I actually be doing with my money? So if I'm a business owner, this is the way I would look at it. If I have available money and I have available free cash flow, now it gets to a point where your business is doing so well, you're making so much money, you can kind of do some other things outside of it. But if you're making 100 grand a year, if you're making 200 grand a year, if you're making 50 grand a year, if you have any free cash flow, any money, is it good for you to put that into the stock market or an index fund or a mutual fund? No, absolutely not. You should be going back into your business, your greatest asset. Your greatest asset could be marketing, could be a new system, could be hiring another employee, something that you probably financially are afraid to do. It's risky. Yeah, that's exactly the point. That's the point of being an entrepreneur is you take risks. If somebody doesn't want to take risks, get out of the game. I remember I had a call years ago with an individual, an insurance agent, and I was explaining to him, he wanted to learn how to market and run Facebook ads. He'd, traditionally never spent any money in his business, and his business was mediocre at best. So I explained to him, you got to spend money. You got to operate like a real business. A real business spends money, takes risk. And he's like, well, that's not what I've heard from gurus online. I should never be taking a risk. I should hit home runs every time. I'm like, well, that's a scam. That's somebody trying to sell you a course or something like that. And anything you do, in his case, he wanted to learn how to market. You want to learn how to market? You have to be willing to put yourself out there and learn. Put out an ad and put some money behind it and risk it not performing. Nobody can 100% certainty tell you if an ad's going to work. And there is no such thing as an out-of-the-box ad. It doesn't exist, no matter how many people are trying to sell it to you. If you really want to get good at running ads, let's say Facebook ads, for example, the best thing you can do is embrace trial and error, testing, putting out an ad, testing it, taking it back to the drawing board, tweak it, run it again, take it back to the drawing board, tweak it, run it again, trying different things, A/B testing, looking at your analytics, seeing what actually isn't performing in the ad. Is it the ad itself? Are people going into your landing page? If tons of people are going into your landing page and they're not converting, it's not the ad. It's the landing page. The landing page isn't converting them. The ad's doing its job. The landing page is getting people into the funnel. The funnel isn't converting people. So if you look at these analytics, you can actually test these things. But these are things you learn over time. For me, I've been learning how to market, and it's an ever-growing, ongoing journey, right? It's a journey that never ends if you're a marketer. And an entrepreneur too. You never stop learning. But it's a multi-year journey. For me, I've been learning how to market myself and run ads and advertise for 6 years. So sometimes so many people are lazy. They just want out-of-the-box ads and marketing ideas. They're just lazy. Marketing ideas should be there to inspire you, to give you an idea, but ultimately you're the one that puts it together and tests it. So yes, risk, but you put this back into the business, okay? The last 20 years, the S&P 500 had an 11% return on average when you invested, again, into, let's say, an S&P 500 index fund into the stock market. If you're not familiar with that, S&P 500 is the 500 largest by market cap companies on the market, on the stock market, okay? You invest back into your business, your returns could very easily be 100% and maybe even more, 500%. I've had returns in my business of 1,000% on spending money back in my business. But that didn't happen all the time. There were times that I've lost money. There were times that I struck out on something, but what did I do? I didn't lose. I learned. I didn't lose. I learned. So I'd be better positioned next time to get 100%, 500%, 1,000% return on my money. So if you're a business owner, if you have extra money, you absolutely need to be putting that into your business. I see people all the time that are mid-level business owners, mediocre business owners, and they're like, it's time to start a 401k or a retirement account or a Roth IRA. That's nonsense and that's total bullshit. That's a scam if I've ever heard one, because you're locking up your money for decades in some cases. You can't touch it. It grows, but it could grow so much faster if you just put it into your business, right? I think about your business as like a little flickering flame, like on like a campfire, and you're pouring lighter fluid into it. You're pouring gasoline into it and watching that flame explode. That's what putting money and risk into your business does, okay? So if you're a business owner, there's no question. Now, eventually you're going to get to a spot where you're a business owner and your business is doing well enough that you can start investing into other places, and that's okay. Other business owners invest into other things. But what most people don't understand is they didn't do that until they were massively successful and rich. You're broke. You're broke. You're not going to do that yet. Multiple streams of income, bro. You're dumb if you talk like that and you're broke. Point blank. All of the most successful people in the world, name me one, there's no exceptions. All the most successful people in the world scaled and drove up one income source until it was massive, and then they started to diversify. Diversification is a lie until you have one massive income stream. I'm writing a book on this right now, so it's kind of a hot button for me, but it's absolutely something that you need to hear, okay? Now let's kind of flip it a little bit, right? Let's say, what if you're an employee? What if you're not a business owner, you're an employee? What should you be doing with your money? Well, if you're content working for a company and you feel like there's potential for you to grow, which is a beautiful thing, there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. At that point, it is better to invest into other things like the stock market, like real estate, etc. Right? But you're putting your money into assets and not liabilities. So for example, right? If I am a motorcycle collector and I love motorcycles, and I have excess money, I shouldn't be going out and buying a bunch of motorcycles. Now, there's a point where you have enough money and you can reward yourself. We're going to kind of come to that in a little bit. But if I have excess money, I'm going to invest that into something that can pay me. A stock that you buy that could pay you a dividend, or it could be a growth stock that could go up in value substantially. If you don't put the time into research stocks, you can put it into something that's known as an index fund. What's an index fund? An index fund is essentially a fund that is a collection of a multitude of different stocks. You could even put one into an S&P 500 index fund where you're buying a share of the index fund. It's just like buying a stock of a company, a share of a company, but you're buying a share of the fund. And you'll have immediately, like that 20-year trajectory said, an average of 11% a year in growth, right? That's a set it and forget it kind of thing. You don't have to research the stocks. You don't have to study the stocks. It's set it and forget it. Now, me personally, I have money invested in index funds and personal stocks because I like personal stocks, and I've done actually pretty well with them. In dividend stocks and growth stocks. Dividend stocks, if you're not familiar, dividend stocks is a stock where that company pays out a percentage of profits out to the shareholders. And they sometimes do it every 3 months, every quarter. Sometimes they do it every 6 months. Sometimes they do it once a year. Some, like REITs, real estate investment trust stocks, will pay you every month, right? And I have several of those in my portfolio, REITs. Again, before I go any farther, I just want to mention I am not a licensed financial advisor or anything like that. This is strictly for entertainment purposes, blah, 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 right? But this is what I do. This is what I recommend if somebody came to me for advice, okay? So I'd be focused on buying. So anyway, back to my motorcycle analogy, right? Let's say I'm buying motorcycles. I keep buying a bunch of motorcycles. Well, this is something that you need to understand. People say, oh, motorcycle's an asset. No, it's not. It's not paying you. Not by the definition. Not by the rich dad, poor dad definition. Simplify your mind in this way. Simple's going to be better. It's going to be more your friend. If you follow these rules explicitly, you're going to wind up much more financially successful. If I'm buying a bunch of cars, motorcycles and cars, if you're riding them, if you're driving them, you're putting wear and tear on them, eventually they all go to zero in value. Always, 100% of the time. If you drive them enough, they shit out. They all go to zero. You buy a car, it goes down 50% of its value the moment you drive it off the lot. Half, 50%. All cars, all motorcycles, all things like that go to zero. So do I want to be putting my money into that? No, I want to be putting it into something that's going to pay me. So now if I'm buying a motorcycle and I'm using it to rent out to people that don't want to buy their own motorcycle, then I've bought a motorcycle in a way that I've made it as an asset, right? Let's say I buy a new home, but I have a big basement. I rent out the basement. I found a way to turn my home into an asset if I'm getting paid more than my mortgage. This video is sponsored by none other than Lead Heroes, you guys. Lead Heroes is going to be your one-stop shop when it comes to your Medicare and final expense needs. People ask me all the time, Christian, what type of lead is going to be the best quality for me to work? And I don't really quite know if the answer is going to be a digital marketing lead, a direct mail lead, or a telemarketed lead, but I can say that a telemarketed lead is going to be up there with the best of them in terms of quality. A telemarketed lead has unique quality to it because there's a live person that actually speaks to the prospective customer and gets their verbal consent that they're interested and willing to speak with a licensed agent just like you. Whether it be a pre-scheduled Medicare appointment with a scope of appointment captured and then scheduled on your calendar 48 hours out, or whether it be a custom calling campaign where you call the shots, where your scripts are used, where it's the areas of your choosing, when it's the times of the day that you're choosing. Custom calling is where you pay by the hour, and essentially it's a custom campaign built to your liking. Lead Heroes has got you covered for all of these unique type of marketing needs for agents. There's a link down in the description of this video about Lead Heroes. You can learn more about these incredibly unique lead generation services, and I think you'll want to check it out today so you can continue to grow and explode your business. Let's say I want to build a guest house in my backyard. I'm renting it out, or I'm Airbnb-ing it. I'm turning it into an asset. Simple, right? And you can get very creative with this. But if I was an employee somewhere and I was making good money and I had some extra money and I had some extra cash flow, what I would do is I would probably buy index funds, S&P 500 index funds. If I wanted to learn stocks, which I do like to stocks, I would probably learn stocks. I'd do some individual stock trading, things like that. I would save up for a rental property. These are good things to be doing with your money. Like things you should be buying. Again, stocks, index funds, real estate, etc. Even in that case, 401ks are okay. Roth IRAs are okay because you have a different perspective than the employer as the employee. Not bad or good or anything like that. Don't get me wrong, right? Being an employer is great when it works, but most people that are employers are broke and fail miserably. So keep that in mind. You take no risk as the employee with the business. The business goes under, you just get another job somewhere. If the business owner goes under, his life is destroyed forever. His credit's destroyed, bankruptcy, everything. It'll take him a decade to recover in some cases. Okay, so look at it from that perspective. Things not to buy: cars, designer clothes. Like, what are you guys doing? You're out there buying Gucci bags, you're buying watches, everything like that. And some people might come back and be like, well, watches can appreciate value. Okay, I get it. But by the law of the definition, it doesn't pay you. It's a liability. It's a liability by that definition. Some of you guys are going out there buying lottery tickets. Now, don't get me wrong. I myself love to gamble. Every time I go to Las Vegas, I love to go play blackjack at the tables. I love to gamble. I do. But I look at it no different as going to the movies. Now, I'm going to try my best to win money. But if I go 10 times, I might win 2 or 3 times and I'm going to lose the rest. I'm going to end up overall down. Last year, I went to Vegas about 3 different times. I live about 6 hours away. I went one time, and I put up $300 on the table. I played for multiple hours, lost a little, but then I got on a hot streak, and I started doing well. I walked away from the table with $900. So went from $300 to $900. Great, right? I won! I come back 2 or 3 months later with my wife, was down $1,000 by the time we were done. So everything I made, I gave back to the casino with interest. The house always wins long term. And same goes for things like lottery tickets, right? Now, if you have extra money and you're doing extremely well financially and it's more of an entertainment thing for you, then look at it as an entertainment thing. Like you're going to the movies or something. I don't go to the movies expecting to walk out with more money in my pocket than I walked in. That's how you should look at gambling. And it's not a way to make money. And in fact, buying lottery tickets is the stupidest thing you can do with your money. Absolutely stupid. You have a better chance of being struck by lightning than winning the lottery. That's the facts. That's the stats, the statistics. So successful people don't buy lottery tickets. They don't buy designer clothes. They don't buy all this shit. They buy things that are assets. Another thing you should be doing, this goes for everybody, no matter whether you're an entrepreneur or an employee. Don't buy things you can't afford. You know how many times I see somebody that's broke offering to buy me dinner, or buy a group of people dinner, or buy a round of drinks at the bar? What you doing? You're broke, son. Don't pay for dinner or drinks if you can't. It's okay to enjoy the fruits of your labor, but not until you've made it. Putting the cart before the horse at that point. So understand it's okay to be frugal and save, but don't save just to save. What happens when you save your money? Inflation eats away at it, right? So every day you keep your money in a regular bank account that's 0.001% interest, you're losing money, right? So that's bad as well. Just saving your money and letting it sit there forever. It's better to save than to waste it on bullshit, but it's not much better because inflation eats away at your money. In 10 years, it'll be worth significantly less than what it is today. So what should you do? Well, you should save, not save to save, but save to invest. Save until you have enough money to where you can invest into something. Have an investor's mindset. Probably one of my favorite personal finance investing books of all time, other than Rich Dad Poor Dad, is a book called The Richest Man in Babylon. If you haven't read that, highly recommend The Richest Man in Babylon. It goes over this very well. But if you're going to save and you have to save, there's 3 different ways you can do it. If you're going to save, put your money into a CD for 6 months, 12 months. Tie it up. Right now, you'll get a 5+% interest rate on that. And that will at the very least keep you up with inflation. Relatively. Put it into a high interest checking account if you don't want to tie it up. There's lots of internet banks that are high interest checking accounts. The one that I personally use that I like a lot is called Ally Bank. They've been around a while. They're a publicly traded company. I own stock in them. And I have a checking account that is like 5.1% interest rate. I can take money in and out whenever I want. I have a money market with them as well that's 5.2 the time of recording this. And that's just for camping my funds in there. Any savings that I have. So where you keep your money that you're saving matters. Don't put it in a regular bank account. And most regular bank accounts at Wells Fargo, at Chase, at a credit union are these little less than 1% interest rates. Maybe you put them in a money market, maybe you don't, but find a high interest savings account, a high interest checking account. They are out there. Make sure the bank is FDIC insured. Make sure it's a real bank. Make sure it's legitimate. And then camp your money in there. Or put it in a CD. Put it in a money market. At least keep up with inflation. At least keep up with inflation if you have to save. But the best thing you can do, in my advice, is save to invest, not save to save. Credit cards. Are credit cards good? Are credit cards bad? Many of you probably heard Dave Ramsey talk about credit cards. He says credit cards are no good. Credit cards are horrible, blah, 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 blah. People can't control themselves, blah, 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 blah. I'm here to tell you that credit cards can be great if you just have some self-control. If you that's watching this, if the guy that's watching this on the other end of the camera here, if you're going to be a big boy, or if it's a girl watching it, if you're going to be a big girl, have some self-control. If you can have some self-control, it's fine. It's no different than, let's say, having a drink of alcohol. If I can have a drink of alcohol and I can have a glass of wine at dinner or 1 beer in the evening, I'm good. But if I have a fridge full of beer and I drink 10 of them, I'm out of control, right? Alcohol's not the problem. It's me. I'm out of control. So some of you might not be able to handle a credit card, but if you can manage yourself, if you can have some self-control, credit cards are amazing. And I try to make every single purchase possible on a credit card. I get thousands of dollars a year in cash back. Thousands. On my businesses, we use credit cards for every transaction that we can. On my personal life, I use personal credit cards for every transaction that I can. You can get free airfare, free travel, great cash back, rewards, gift cards, etc. And it doesn't cost you anything extra. You just have to have some self-control. Dave Ramsey's right from the standpoint that he says, it's easier to swipe a credit card than actually pay with cash or something like that, right? It's true. But you have to mentally train yourself to be disciplined. Again, everything that comes with financial independence and financial literacy is discipline. Every single time, 100% of the time. So credit cards are wonderful. Credit cards are great. You should use them for everything if you can be an adult and if you can be disciplined, point blank. So Dave Ramsey's wrong on saying no one should use a credit card. I use credit cards for everything. I don't regret it. I don't carry any credit card debt. I pay them off every month. I don't pay interest, not a penny. But I reap the rewards of the credit card. Okay. Last but not least, just to kind of close this out, there's a lot of things we've been kind of covering on this episode today, and I love doing these. If you guys like this type of episode, if you're watching on YouTube, please let me know in the comments so I know that you guys like this type of content, and we'll make sure we're doing them more on the 7 Figures or Bust podcast. If you guys like this type of content, leave a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you might be listening to the audio of this. This is how we'll know that you like this type of content, and will encourage us to continue to bring you more of it. Not your traditional business episode, but I feel like it's a really, really important and valuable episode to be doing. Let's talk about debt. A lot of financial pundits preach about debt. Good debt, bad debt. And a lot of these financial pundits say that debt in general is bad. I'm here to tell you that debt is not bad. Debt is good in certain regards. Let me explain. There is such a thing, as I mentioned, as good debt and bad debt. And this is what you should be looking at, right? What is bad debt? Owing the IRS money is bad debt. Owing your credit card company at 15 to 25% interest is bad debt. Taking out a personal loan from like a Czech city is bad debt. Things like that are bad debt. Pay them off as fast as possible. Student loans are bad debt. What about your mortgage? Is your mortgage bad debt? Depends on who you talk to. But some of you have bought houses 5 to 10 years ago, and you have a 2 to 3% interest rate. Is that bad debt? I would say no, because it's almost free money at that point. Very little interest you're paying. To me, if my house is, let's say, worth $400,000 or $500,000, my house is worth more, but let's just hypothetically say, and I have a 2% interest rate like some of you do that have been paying on it for a while. If it takes me, let's say, $400,000 to pay off my house, and I'm going to save that up and I'm going to dump that in, you know what I could do with $400,000 if I put it into my business or I invested it? I'm going to make way more than 2%, and that's what you're saving on the interest if you pay it off early. So don't pay it off early. Make your monthly payments. Refinance when it's in your favor. Lower your payments. Now, if you have a crazy interest rate, an extremely high interest rate, like if I have debt on something and it's 8, 9, 10, 11%, I might try to pay that off early. But again, me looking at it from a business owner's perspective, let's say I have a piece of debt that's $10,000 and I'm making monthly payments on it and my interest rate's 9%. Am I going to make more or less than 9% investing that into my business? Obviously more, right? If I know what I'm doing, which I do because I'm a seasoned entrepreneur, I'm going to spend that on my business. And that is a really good way to look at debt. Now, it doesn't mean you want to get yourself into a hole with debt either. Like car loans. Are car loans good debt or bad debt? Bad debt. Bad debt every single time. Okay, so I'm in favor of paying off debt to a certain degree. Now, should you take debt out into your company if you're a business owner? Yes, you should. I've done it several times. I'm about to do it again to make a purchase for my business. And this will be almost a $500,000 loan that we're doing. Working on it right now. Our interest rate on it's going to be 9%, but our return is going to be well over 9%, significantly over. So you can do something that's called leveraging debt. Leveraging debt to where your interest rate is so, your monthly payment is so, but the additional revenue to your business is this. It's double what that could be. It's triple what that could be. So debt is a good thing. It's a weapon that you can use for your business, but you just have to be smart about it. High interest rates, if you can help it, are not good. Personal debt with high interest is not good. There's a lot of people in this country that are being eaten away by credit card debt. Get out of that. Pay that debt off. That's bad debt. Car payments, bad debt. If I'm living in a house and my mortgage is really high and my interest rate's really low, but my mortgage payment's high, so I have mortgage insurance or something like that, I can get behind putting a little bit of extra money into that to get rid of that. Debt can eat you alive, but if you are building your business and you have good cash flow, debt can be a tool to allow you to grow faster. And all large businesses do it. You look at any company that's a publicly traded company in the world, they have debt on their financial sheets, their financial reports. It's true. Look at them, any of them. Google, Amazon, Disney, Netflix, take your pick. Walmart, McDonald's, they all have debt on their balance sheet. Why don't they just pay it off? Because they understand they're better off investing that money into their business, because the business will build more of a return than they'd save on paying off the debt. And with that, my friends, we're going to put this episode 27 to an end. I hope you guys enjoyed this so much. Again, if you enjoyed this episode, the only way we're going to know about it is by showing us some love. Leave us good reviews. If you're watching the video on YouTube, comment your thoughts down below. Smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm. It's going to help so many more people find this episode. And we'll see you guys next time. Here's to your journey to building your business to 7 figures or bust. Thanks, everybody. Next time, we'll see you.